So let's just compare the traditional classroom with an online learning environment in a couple key areas. The first one is in a traditional classroom, you have the lecture, right? Teacher waving their arms, okay? So you have the lecture. In an online learning environment, we have both a synchronous and an asynchronous example here. For the synchronous example, Sean talked about expanding the classroom beyond the four walls, okay? And so here's an example of that. This is synchronous, it's happening in real time, and this isn't an authentic example because right before the opening faculty meeting, Sean and I did a few, sketches, I guess, before the faculty. So it wasn't really the intended audience here, but anyway. But in the lower school, they often do, for example, a birding unit. So they traditionally have done a birding unit. But you might expand. What do you mean to expand the four walls of the classroom? That's not a construction project. It means to, take the learning beyond just the classroom. And so here what we do is we have a little sketch of pulling in an expert from the field. So I'll go ahead and play this example. I'll go ahead and play this example. Oh.
John! Oh, hey, how's my junior ornithologist doing that back there at Columbus Cabin?
Hey, the class of empty chairs is here with me, and they're excited about today.
Oh, I love empty chairs. I love them. Hey, you class, you remember that last week we talked about birds, and that the week before we talked about identifying birds. Today it's all about how to find those birds. And it's just like a reeler. Reelers, location, location, location. Here, it's habitat, habitat, habitat. So what we're looking for is the right place for the right bird. If you were looking for the President of the United States, where would you look, class? Where would you look? You tell me.
What do you say? They say the White House.
The White House, that's exactly right. You go to the White House and then you'd be able to have a possible White House site. Same idea for our birds. So let's head out now.
So, I mean, that's okay. But there are actually programs out there, Meet an Astronaut and things like that, where you can have a conversation, okay, with people outside the classroom. Imagine, even on the high school level, where you're talking about foreign policy. It's pretty interesting to sit around and talk about foreign policy. It's more interesting to sit around and talk about foreign policy with people around the world, right? And talk about varied perspectives and, all sorts of things come in. And so technology is at the point now where it's much easier to do that sort of thing. This was a synchronous example. I'm going to take a look at an asynchronous example. Let's say I have some content that I want to get out there, and here's a way to get it out there, but not where everybody's live with me at the same moment, but in an asynchronous way.
So what is a voice thread? Well, it's a tool for having conversations around media.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop right there and kind of explain. It says it's a tool for having conversation around media. So VoiceThread is something new that we've added to our Moodle site this year. And how this works is the following. A teacher, this happens to be Marissa. Marissa is presenting a project. So she has her screen being captured here. She's talking about her project, and she's talking about it. Then each one of these things here, okay, is someone's response to the project. So they're having an asynchronous conversation about the project. I met a teacher who was teaching both in the classroom and online at a private institution similar to Academy, and she uses VoiceThread all the time because she'll do a little lecture and you get to see her wave her arms and see the screen much like what we were doing. But then students can ask questions. They can say, hey, I think you made an error on problem 2, or shouldn't have been this, or why did you do this? And then so students can interact, and then she might find it first, or maybe another student watches the lecture, sees the student's question, a couple hours later, and like, oh, I know the answer to that. And so they'll answer the question. And so every question doesn't have to be answered by the student. There's something else that we know about students. Okay? So far in this presentation, probably sometime you might have had a question. But there's a lot of people here, right? It's a little awkward just to say, oh, excuse me, I have a question. And to ask that question, and so you let it go. Same thing happens in the classroom. Now, we're supposed to be experts at drawing out questions, but it's hard to do it all the time, especially when you have content to get through, all that stuff. So, but in an asynchronous world, a student can watch something, say, oh, I have a question, and then they back up and they watch it again. No, they didn't answer it. Or yes, they did. I'm glad they didn't ask it. You know, and so they watch it a couple times, and then they might take 3, 4, 5 minutes forming their question, typing it out. You know, because on VoiceThread you can type it out, you can say it, you can webcam yourself, you can upload it from a text file, you can comment any way you want. And so they spend time formulating that question, making sure it's good, making sure that it doesn't sound silly, which is sometimes, you know, an important factor, and then they post it. And so it actually invites more people to participate with the lecture when it's not in real time, when you don't have to instantly come up and be able to form that articulate question, and you have more time to do it. And if you take more time to do it, you know, Sean talks about authentic engagement. That's what we mean by authentic engagement. Students are taking more time to say, okay, I have this question, and they spend 5 minutes thinking about it. That's 5 more minutes that they spent thinking deeply about the content of the course than what they would have normally spent. Okay, and that's what helps learning to go deeper. Okay, so next example, in a traditional classroom, we have discussions. Right? You walk around Academy, and one of the reasons why we have class sizes that we do is big enough that you can carry discussion, but not so big that not every voice can be heard. And so you have a discussion, and you see this going on. How does that happen online? Well, in an online learning environment, this one teacher that I heard speak, and she was teaching both in the classroom and online, it was fascinating. Some of the things she told me were just absolutely fascinating to me. And one of the things that she said was, I teach both in the classroom and online. And she made this shocking statement. She said, I have a better relationship with the students that I teach online than the students that I teach in the classroom. And I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me. How can you have a better relationship? You know, you can't see them and interact with them, but you can. You can. And this next example shows why she has a better relationship, because she has more one-on-one time with the individual students in her online environment, less corporate time, but more one-on-one time. So she actually has a better relationship with them. She has all these 1 minute, you know, me, you talking about the content, I know you better, as opposed to me talking to all of you simultaneously. So let's take a look. Now, once again, this is a staged example. Nonetheless.
Hey, Mr. Daubenmier.
Hey, how are you doing, Matt?
Good. Do you have time to help us with our end of the year program project?
Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, I see Alex is online. Do you want to pull her in?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. I understand you guys have some questions about your end-of-year programming project?
Yeah, we had a question about the structure of our game.
Okay, great. Well, let's talk about that. Now, they were actually in class at the moment, so I was able to answer that in real time, not on this. But I said, hey, do this, and I went out to the hall, and I sent Alex down the hall, and we did it this way through iChat. This is software that's already on these computers. It's nothing special, and it allows, and the students already have all their accounts, right? You know that. The only people we have to convince to get accounts are the people like me, and you know, they already have it. In fact, people often say, how do you keep up with all this new technology stuff? And they think that I go home and I'm like reading on the internet all the time. That's not how I do it. I walk into class and I have a question and I say, okay, I need somebody under 20. You know, and you know, like, oh, me. They come on, they know it's a technology question. They come up as, you know, because when I was looking for this example, I was like, Uvu seems so great. And they're like, Mr. Daubenmier, you gotta be kidding me. Uvu has ads. Why don't you just do it in iChat? I said, you can multi-video chat in iChat? Are you serious? They're like, yeah. And so, anyway, that's how I found out. So this is one way, being able to connect with students individually. An asynchronous example, this is a pretty powerful example here that has to do with the online discussion. We can have a real discussion in real time in the classroom, or we can have an asynchronous discussion on a bulletin board. So this example comes from another school.